Hello and welcome to Famous Gays and Lesbians, alleged and otherwise. I'm your host, Thomas Connolly. I happen to be a gay actor, and I live in the gayest city of them all, West Hollywood, California. Now, today's episode deals with an evil genius, as described by one critic. Many people felt that he was the most powerful man in our country for over 5 decades. Yes, most presidents were afraid of him. It was said that President Harry Truman, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, President John F. Kennedy, and President Richard Nixon all despised him and wanted him fired, but they couldn't because he had leverage and blackmail information over all of them. For example, in Kennedy's case, this man knew that Kennedy was sleeping with Judith Campbell Exner, who was connected to Sam Giancana and the mafia. In the 1960s, this could have annihilated Kennedy's Camelot mystique in an instant. Now, this man had a secret enemies list of over 432,000 Americans that he considered subversive and dangerous in some way. Now, it wasn't very hard to get on this list. Everyone from Marilyn Monroe to the lovely Eleanor Roosevelt to a Supreme Court justice like Louis Brandeis, and to Martin Luther King, to Malcolm X, even to Jane Fonda. Now, many people considered him racist and anti-civil rights. This man even tried to blackmail Martin Luther King once because he knew about his extramarital affairs, luckily to no avail. He even had a file on Mother Teresa. When I think of the world's great agitators, how dare she advocate for poor people? Now, these files that he had were replete with unconfirmed gossip about their sex lives and radical ties. Now, unfortunately, he wound up using these files to bully a lot of innocent Americans and destroy a lot of careers. Now, who am I talking about? You probably figured it out by now. I'm talking about the one and only, notorious, infamous J. Edgar Hoover. Now, he ran the FBI for some 48 years, from 1924, when the FBI was in its early stages, to 1972, with an iron fist. And yes, J. Edgar Hoover was a gay man. Now, even though it wasn't acknowledged when J. Edgar Hoover was alive, it's now recognized that J. Edgar Hoover had a 40-year relationship with the FBI's assistant director, Clyde Tolson. Now, even in the movie J. Edgar, directed by conservative Republican Clint Eastwood and starring the marvelous Leonardo DiCaprio as J. Edgar Hoover, we see Tolson and Hoover openly kiss on screen, and Tolson goes on to express his love for J. Edgar Hoover as well. Now, we also see them holding hands quite frequently in the movie as well. Now, in real life, the two men were pretty much inseparable. They worked together every day. They took lunch together every day. They vacationed together. Oh, even the great writer, William Styron, noted that in one of the vacations at a California beach house, he witnessed J. Edgar Hoover painting the toenails of Clyde Tolson. Also, Hoover and Tolson were frequently spotted in boxes used by and owned by exclusively gay men at the Del Mar racetrack in California. And when J. Edgar Hoover died in 1972, he bequeathed his multi-million-dollar home to Clyde Tolson, where Tolson lived the remainder of his life. Even the legendary Broadway star Ethel Merman said in a 1978 interview, everybody knew that J. Edgar Hoover was gay, but he was the best FBI chief we ever had. I'm not so sure about that, Ethel. Now, the definitive book on how Hoover, as a gay man, was relentless and horrendous in his attacks on the LGBT community is Hoovers War on Gays, Exposing the FBI's Sex Deviance Program by Douglas M. Charles. It's a fantastic, illuminating book for all you avid readers out there. Now, Charles writes that it all began in the 1930s with the kidnapping and murder of a young boy named Charles Matson. Now, even though this case was never solved, J. Edgar Hoover concocted this theory with absolutely no evidence that a homosexual man had sexually assaulted this little boy. J. Edgar Hoover stressed that as a society, we had to watch out for these homosexuals who were not only quote unquote sexual deviants, but pedophiles as well. And this totally certified the image that gay men were pedophiles. And even though Hoover was a gay man, he was obsessed with opening up files on suspected homosexuals. Now, these files were all based on gossip, innuendo, speculation, and rumors. Now, you have to remember that this was a time when it was illegal to be a practicing gay man or lesbian woman in our country. Now, Charles goes on to discuss in his book that J. Edgar Hoover was in cahoots with Joseph McCarthy and Roy Cohn in the Lavender Scare movement. Now, as we discussed in a previous episode, Roy Cohn, as a gay man, was the principal engineer of the Lavender movement, which was an actual law that he got Dwight D. Eisenhower to enact, Executive Order 10450, which led to the firing of over 5,000 gay and lesbian people. Well, at any rate, J. Edgar Hoover became directly involved with Roy Cohn and Joseph McCarthy in outing people with his numerous files on suspected homosexuals. Now, it's important to note that J. Edgar Hoover and Roy Cohn, as gay men, made a mission to persecute 5,000 other gay men and out them and fire them. Self-loathing, table for two, Roy Cohn and J. Edgar Hoover. Now, of course, even after the Lavender Scare was proven to be ludicrous and unconstitutional, J. Edgar Hoover nonetheless continued his attacks on the LGBT community. J. Edgar Hoover was fervently against any progressive gay rights liberation movement. He illegally wiretapped and harassed some of the very early gay rights groups like the Mattachine Society and its founder, Harry Hay. J. Edgar Hoover went after the Daughters of Bilitis and the Gay Liberation Front groups as well. The good news is that J. Edgar Hoover was unable to crush any of these early gay rights groups. And all this time, J. Edgar Hoover is painting the toenails of his boyfriend, Clyde Tolson. Now, you might have heard that J. Edgar Hoover was a cross-dresser, but to be fair, it's all based on hearsay and innuendo from a bunch of New York socialites. So we have no proof on that front, but I do think J. Edgar Hoover would have looked stunning in chiffon. Oh no, taffeta even better. Well, anyway, that's about it for this episode. And it just goes to show, sometimes you got to watch out for the enemy within. Well, this is Thomas Connolly for Famous Gays and Lesbians, Alleged and Otherwise. If you like what you see, could you please like and subscribe? That would really help our show. Until next time, bye-bye.